where did you grow up?
I'm from San Diego.
And where's home base? I know you travel a lot, but where's home base?
Well, home base is LA, but I've lived in the same apartment here in New York for 25 years.
You're kidding. Where's that? Downtown?
It's in the West Village.
Oh, I'm in the West Village too.
Yeah, yeah.
I've been there a long time too.
Well,
It's nice.
When I got that Mac contract 25 years ago,
Oh my God.
the first thing I did was I bought this apartment.
Good move.
And I've been there for 25 years, and but mostly in LA because of work.
Yeah.
You know, which is.
So to me, you know, I've been thinking all weekend. Well, what? I have so many questions, but I keep going back to how much a pioneer you are, and how, for me, out of all of the 10,000 zillion things you have done and will continue to do, that being a pioneer is a whole other level. Like, you go out there and take a chance, and there is some motivation to do that most people, the population, doesn't do. And so what in your childhood or in your life experience caused this sort of, I have to do this?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, it goes back to what we were saying earlier, which is being present and being aware of what's happening and understanding how to navigate life in this human body. You know, what motivated me was that I wanted to do something with this gift of this life, and I wanted to, and I still want to, I want to have fun. I want to have fun. You know, I'm jet lagged. I caught the E train to come up here today, and you know, being hyper aware of what human nature and things. There's a part of me that's like, oh, good Lord, it's so dreary right now in the human experience. And all I wanted to do is walking up Fifth Avenue. All I wanted to do was just dance. I was listening to Jeffrey Osborne on the way up here, and Back in Love Again came on when he was in the group LTD. Right. And I just wanted to, on Fifth Avenue, I just wanted to start dancing. Because that would connect me to the source. It would connect me to the spirit, my own spirit. So what motivates me is, throughout my life, it's been, I want to have fun. Mm-hmm. I want to enjoy this life, and I don't want to be bored. Yeah. I don't want to be bored.
See, I totally agree. For me, if I can laugh, and funny people to me are just, there's a brilliance there that I appreciate. Funny people who can make the horrible acceptable to deal with, to talk about, because humor. Dave Chappelle, obviously, is the first name that comes to mind. And then to dance and sing, whether I can sing or not, I don't give a crap. I just feel that that's such a great release for human beings. And the other thing is, let me take your hand. When was the last time somebody held your hand, looked in your eyes, that you weren't involved with or had your mom, dad kind of thing? People don't do this anymore. Do you remember when we used to do this? Like we would touch each other and do this. This is almost more intimate than sex. Yeah. Because I'm looking in your eye and I'm taking your hand. We're not kind anymore.
That's right.
We don't touch. We don't interact physically. And I'm not saying anything more than that. And I think that's why it got so precious between men and women, and what can you do, what can't you do. Yeah. There's something so off, and it's so contrary to everything that you're about and what you've presented, that we've gone way off in a very dark area of life.
We have. And it is sad. And for sweet, sensitive souls, it's the first thing that comes to mind when we walk out on the street down Fifth Avenue. And, taking someone by the hand and looking them in the eye.
It's so great.
It
it's
is
so
great.
nice. And to feel somebody's hand, there's an energy in the person's hand, or somebody's not feeling well, or
Yes.
you just lost your job, and tell me what's going on.
It's a touchstone. It's a way for another human being to say, oh, I recognize your God self. And I recognize your God self, and I have compassion for your God self, And that is what is missing. So, what do we do? What do we do with that information? How do we reconnect? Well, the first thing that comes to mind is that they are my teacher. I am not their teacher. So what everyone is teaching me is what not to do and what to remember about my own experience. But that's a tall order for us, sweet, sensitive souls who are living in this world every day. It's a tall order because we have to carry so much of that, and you're faced with unconsciousness at every turn. You think, well, what do I do? Well, okay, you go and meditate, and you can stretch. This is what I do in the morning. I stretch. Then I pray, since I'm already down there. And
when you pray, are you thinking about an intention for the day, or how do you approach prayer? Because you know what? People don't talk about prayer anymore. It's something that's almost better left unsaid. And I also find prayer very important, even if it's a conversation with whoever, however you want to communicate. So what are you thinking about when you pray?
Well, I'm very conscious of what prayer is and what it does. What prayer does is it connects me to the source, but it also diffuses my ego. It's a way for me to acknowledge that, yes, I have an ego, and that right now, ego, shut the F up. I'm going to go to the source. I'm going to go to the source that makes the rain fall, that makes the waves crash into the shore, and that makes the seasons change and everything happen. And that act alone is all that is needed to diffuse the ego and have a sanctuary in that moment. And also, it allows me to express my gratitude for this incredible gift of having this human body and this spirit and this soul. And just that alone, and I learned this a long time ago, just by saying, "Dear God, thank you." 4 words.
It's humility. Yeah.
It's humility.
So what's your purpose in this lifetime? I mean, most people just live and life sort of takes them along. But I really think having a purpose keeps us sort of on a track. And clearly you're aware of your purpose. So what would that be?
My purpose is to create. First of all, it's actually even more simple than that. I want to experience life. I want to experience it. And throughout my experiences, I realized that I'm creative. I love being creative. I love solving a problem and saying, what if we put shoulder pads on it? What if we ruche around here? Let's ruche the arms. That excites me. And I love laughing and dancing and colors and love and beauty and beautiful smells. I love all of those things that tickle my senses. And I love being at a creative table with a bunch of people who I can volley with. And there's no bad ideas. It's just, And then what I'm doing is channeling the source and allowing it to come through. It's like, which is again like dancing to Jeffrey Osborne on Fifth Avenue. You are summoning the spirit, and it's like, wow, it takes you there, and I love it.
It does.
That's my purpose. It's very simple, it's very simple.
So what do you think is coming next that not just specifically for you. I'm sure you have a list of projects you're working on and things that you'll be doing. And if you haven't thought of them up here on your way out, you'll think of it. There's no question. But I mean just in the bigger picture of what's going on in the world. Like, where do you see your place in where we're going? Everything you've done has already transformed the way people think. I mean, you've done that. You, more than anybody else, has transformed what gender is and how it can be viewed and how it could be understood. You've transformed just the life spirit that exists for everyone and made it understandable for everyone. And I'm really so in awe of how powerful that is and where we are today, where I can be doing gender fluid clothes and I'm not like banging down doors, pay attention, this has to be done. You already did that. You opened all these doors. So now, what do you see as where we will need to go? Because we sort of can intuit where we are as a country and a world and what the needs are. But what do you see next as your mission?
Yeah. First of all, thank you for saying those things. You know, it's hard for me to take responsibility for that because my part in all of that is allowing myself to be used by the source to let this go through me and to allow myself. And my part in it is staying interested in life enough to want to get out of bed in the morning. Because for us sweet, sensitive souls, we have to fight the impulse to say, F it. F it all. You guys are stupid and I don't want to play anymore. You know. But I fought through that impulse enough to let the source use me to do this work. So I can't take full responsibility except for my part in getting out of bed and leaving the apartment in the morning. But, you know, a part of me, actually a big part of me, says that based on the history of humans on this planet and based on the game of chess, you know, if you move this here, the repercussion is this over here, right? Where we are today, and don't shoot the messenger, it feels like everything has to collapse for it to be reborn again. We know that this system that we live in is a system of death and rebirth, death and rebirth. And it feels that where we're headed now, we're on a collision course to just disaster. Because we know that unconsciousness leads to nowhere. It leads nowhere. And you can't see where you're going if you are unconscious when you're walking down the street, right? So what it feels like is that's where we're going. I feel like my purpose in this and what's next for me, and I've been trying to bite my tongue with trying to tell the world, Soylent Green is people! Soylent Green is people! It's a reference you may not know, but you'll look it up and you'll get it. But also what history has told me and taught me about people who say Soylent Green is people is that humans usually go, oh, it's Soylent Green is people? Thanks for telling. Can I have another order of Soylent Green, please? You know what I mean? And so you think, well, what about people like Jane Fonda and Martin Luther King and the people who have tried to tell everyone, you know, what's ahead? Don't go that way. Stay away from that direction. You know, when people are going that. History has taught us that, you know, people don't listen and they go that way anyway. And so I've had to realize I'm not their teacher. They are my teacher. So try to avoid going that way. Allow people to make their mistakes and go that way. But knowing what you know, Ru, try to circumvent going down that path and in the midst of this destruction, still make a life for yourself. Still find that happiness. Still find sanctuary and a place where you can experience this life. And that's it. I cannot save mankind from themselves, and I can't. There's no combination of words I can say that will make them go, oh, I get it. Soylent Green is people. We can't be eating people. We've got to find something that is more sustainable than eating each other.
Right. But I want to challenge you, though, to say you're an important influence, and for you not to have a voice right now, I think is not a good thing. I think you have tremendous influence, and hearing your thoughts and hearing your point of view about what's going on and how we're sort of all, it's almost like we're hypnotized.
We are.
And that...
It's a thought virus. It's a thought virus that is
That is so brilliant. That is really perfect. That really is. But I really do think it's sort of a responsibility you have. If you have a voice and there are enough people who really respect what you say, because you've proven over and over that when you say something or you influence, there's meaning and there's something behind it that people should pay attention to. So I do think that this is something you need to talk about and manifest into some sort of behavior that is safe for people and healthy for them.
Yeah. I think the ones who can get it will get it. And I'm going to just go back to the thought virus thing. What's happened is we have allowed egoic thinking to dominate our lives, where we don't have that balance. The ego is important to a certain degree. It is, but it's off balance, where everyone is concerned with me, what about me, which is fine, but you have to balance that with us. We are one thing. We're not separate from one another.
Yeah.
The ego will have you believe that it's you against the world and it's only you. And we can tell by the people we've elected in political office that they represent that egoic way of thinking. It is a thought virus. So when you are up against the ego, you have no defense. It's like the chief of police looking for an arsonist when the arsonist is the chief of police.
You're gonna go there, yeah.
And so there's no way around that unless there's an awakening, because the ego is of the brain, and the next level of consciousness is not here. It's outside of the brain. So how do you connect with that other level of consciousness when the ego is standing guard? You think, oh, okay, I'll let you figure it out for yourself. But in how I conduct my life and what I do with art and projects, people who are conscious will get the message through that. But the people whose ego is standing guard, you don't want to fool with them, because the ego will go to all lengths to destroy you, because the ego has to survive.
Protects itself.
It has to protect itself.
And in that protection, all kinds of corruption and really bad stuff happen. And I think being unconscious is the safe place right now for everyone. Just scrolling through Instagram. Yeah. Okay, I'm not having to be responsible for what's happening. I can just, look, there's makeup, that dress is pretty, or, and then you just start and that person's having fun, and that one, I'm in a bad mood, and I'm not having fun, I feel like crap. It's like we judge ourselves, we do everything through these weird boxes of what should be, of status quo. It's a very interesting time, but I do think there were people, you mentioned Martin Luther King, and I, because I am that much older than you are, I used to watch these great people on the 3 channels we had on TV, and I remember Martin Luther King, and I remember JFK, and I remember Gandhi. All of these people had a voice in our time. Mm-hmm. That was what the atmosphere was, and we were landing on the moon, and there was such a spirit of positive, we can make a change, we can do this together. And Martin Luther King, I just put up a piece of art in my apartment with a big statement by Martin Luther King, and I just thought, how can I have to preserve these beautiful words, and that influence just doesn't exist anymore. Right. So the influence is maybe social media or whatever it is. But I think that in the most unlikely places, we need to find a way to communicate and to create these other choices for people. Mm-hmm. So when you're working and being creative, is there a way, do you think, and this is a question that I can't even imagine an answer to, but is there a way, do you think, that you can engage people to participate in positive energy? I mean, are there things that you think about or that you do now, or because I'm thinking about that all the time? Yeah. What are some of the thoughts you have about that?
Well, because we were given free will, you cannot inspire someone to enrich their lives unless they want to, unless they give you permission. Years ago, someone told me, some girl in school told me that, Ru, you always have angels around you, but they cannot intervene unless you say, please help me. And because we have free will. Right. And your angels can't intervene. So the same is true with just consciousness. People choose to be unconscious. And you talked about, being on the phones, and I always get a vision of that scene in The Matrix where there's pods of people living in these pods, and they're dreaming of this life. And what we have is the Instagram, is that life and they're always connected to it, because if they put it down and got into this moment, they'd realize how much pain they are in. Yeah. The Eckhart Tolle thing. He says, if you allowed yourself to be present for 5 minutes, the first thing you would recognize is how much pain you're in. And people don't want to be in pain. So and unfortunately, the way we've created this world is that it's until we are in so much pain that we are willing to look at another choice. It's like don't go near that stove, it's hot. It's like, what? I'm not going near that stove again. Now, intellectually, I could have listened to my mother and said, oh, you're smarter, you've been around. Yeah, okay, got it. I'm not going to go. No, I had to go and touch it. Yeah. And that is the system we've set up. So when you think about Martin Luther King or Jane Fonda or Gandhi, you think about, well, what is their motivation for wanting to help the world? Well, the motivation could be, well, I want to live in a world where we can elevate ourselves as humans. The biggest disappointment I had from the election a few years ago was that the realization that we as humans weren't further along in our evolution.
That's right.
We're here.
That's right. Yeah.
So when I think about trying to inspire people to their higher self, I have to ask myself, what's your motivation? Well, first of all, I want to have friends. I want to have people to dance with. Come on, guys, elevate, because I want to party with my friends. When I got famous years ago, I wanted to bring my friends from the East Village with me. And, you know, come, you're smart, come to the writer's room. There's a seat for you at the writer's room. All you got to do is take my hand. They couldn't do it. Most of them could not do it because their identity was tied into being a starving, struggling artist in the East Village, talking about the man won't let me.
So smart.
You know what I mean?
So true.
So I learned from, and actually in San Diego, as a kid, we lived in this area that was nowhere near prime real estate, the beach coast. But I would take the bus, 11 years old, catch the bus out to the beach and just spend the day out there. 12, 11 years old. I'd come back to my neighborhood, and all the kids in my neighborhoods would be standing around like, so you think you're white or something?
Yeah.
You think you're better than us?
Right.
And I'd be like, no, actually the beach is great. We live in San Diego, it's great. But I learned early on that people feel threatened by your freedom, by your beauty. It's what Glinda the Good Witch says that to Dorothy. She says, Dorothy says, why is he following me? She says, she's actually really jealous and envious of your lust for life, your beauty. You know, she doesn't have that. So what I say to young people all the time is that our secret weapon against the darkness is our love, our beauty, our joy, our love of the beach, our innate need to gravitate towards sparkly, shiny things, things that are exciting. And that's what those people have lost. That's what they have lost. So I don't know, you know, I'm going to continue to do what I do to make myself happy and enjoy, and hopefully that will inspire people. But I don't know how to do it. You know, in the Ten Commandments, the movie The Ten Commandments, everybody has, I think they've already crossed the Red Sea, they've landed on the other side, and Moses says, guys, listen, I'm going to go up this hill for a minute. I have a feeling there's a burning bush up there, but while I'm gone, you guys just chill, I'll be back in a minute, and whatever you do, don't fire up that urn and make any graven images. Well, he goes up there, and they're like, well, he's been gone for about 2 minutes. You know what, let's fire up that urn and just go back to what we were doing before. And you know, of course, humans they revert back to the fear that they're used to. When an abused child is taken from an abusive home, that child cries and cries and cries because it wants to go back to what it's familiar with. So what that has taught me is, Ru, focus on making yourself happy. They are your teacher. You are not their teacher. Live your life, and maybe some will be attracted to what you're doing and will go, I want what he has.
Right. What's the most provocative thing you've ever done?
The most provocative thing I've ever done is continue to get out of bed in the morning. It really is. It's the decision to live. It's the decision to follow my heart every day, and to do that with true conviction. Because, as you know, with most people, they will buy into plan A or plan B, and neither of those plans fit the human experience. You know, get married, have a child, have 2.2 children, and you know, follow this plan. And people don't understand why they're so unhappy, or why they're so overweight, or why they're alcoholics, or why they're gambling, because they are in so much pain. George and I, my husband George, we were talking this morning. I was in Pennsylvania at QVC, doing QVC, watching the hearings, the impeachment hearings. And he said he was at the gym, and he said he saw a man in the background who was sitting, who had, it was actually, it broke my heart. He was so obese. He had a bunch of flesh around his head like this. And this morning at breakfast, we were saying, you saw that? I saw that. all I could think of was how much pain this man was in to put a wall of flesh around him to protect his heart. It's like the elephant in the room. I don't know where I'm going with this, but my point is, we as humans on this planet are in so much pain, and we've created an identity around that pain. East Village friend, just take my hand, just take my hand. There's a place for you. We've created an identity around that, and it's not in my power to break that spell. The best I can do is be an example of what it's like to live beyond that pain.
And was there anybody influential in your childhood that sort of gave you the ability to look another way, in a different way than other people do?
Yeah, I mean, Jesus, Krishna, Buddha, they're all there. Jane Fonda, Gandhi, Martin Luther King. The hero of 1,000 faces, Superman. It's all there.
Right.
Drag for me is the Superman to my Clark Kent. If you're paying attention.
I love that. Whoa, wait a minute. That is so great. That is so great.
Drag for me is the Superman to my Clark Kent.
That is so perfect. That is so great. And you know, everybody does drag.
Everybody does drag.
Everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, whether they know it or not.
That is such a great line. Wow.
So if you are present, and I was always able to see that the emperor was not wearing any clothes, it's pretty obvious how to navigate this thing. I understood that this life is a construct, and that I am the architect, and that I can build the life I want. Now, it's not going to be easy, but even if I choose plan A or plan B, that's not easy either.
Yeah.
It is not easy. None of it is easy.
Yeah.
So if I had a choice, I'd rather choose my own plan and stick to it. And yes, my heart will be broken because the world will go, what? What? Oh, you think you're better than us?
Right.
What kind of plan is that?
Right.
I'm always going to be faced with that.
Yeah. The minute you're doing something different, the minute you go on a different path, because of fear, people don't want you to succeed.
That's
They
right.
want to trip you up. They want to give you a hard time. And the beauty of going ahead with the plan and not getting tripped up is it's because you become Superman. You become the superpower that I know I can do that. Even though you're not ready for it, I know you can do that.
Yeah.
It's a great empowerment to be able to know that if you have a dream, that you can actually get it, and then it inspires another dream. I think that's what you've done. I love that line again, the Clark Kent, the Superman. It's so perfect because it relates to everybody. It really, really does. It's almost like you should do a children's book on that so that little kids can understand the depth of that and that the simplicity of the symbolism too. Yeah. It's really so profound. I love it. When you were 6 years old, and I remember when I was 6, somebody asked me or talked to me about having kids and being a mom, and I was like, nope, not me, not me. And I remember it really started to get people upset. So I nuanced it. I was like, maybe someday. And then it was like, as I go, yeah, I'm thinking about it, not really. And I sort of said what people wanted to hear, even though I was like, not happening here. And I knew then, and I don't know why, but I knew then that wasn't going to be for me. And I knew that there would be a lot of explanations along the way. And even when I was 50, I was saying, I don't know, I could adopt. I was like, I'm still, okay, I could adopt. So when you were 6, did anybody talk to you about when you grow up and you're going to be a scientist? Or
Right.
like, what, did you ever have that you knew, like, I know right now, 6 years old, I'm telling you.
Yeah. Well, for girls, you know, it's difficult because that is expected of girls, and people don't know how to communicate. So the first thing that they want to say is, "So are you going to have kids?" You know, because they can't imagine a girl doing anything but being someone's mother.
Yeah.
You know.
No, and absolutely like that's the choice. This is a great thing.
Yeah.
But I think all kids have some sort of obligation to talk about their future, or
Right.
what it is they're going to be.
Yeah.
But I do believe that at 6 and 7, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, you know.
I knew.
Clearly, right?
I knew. Yeah. Yeah. You know, my mother, when she was pregnant with me, saw a psychic, and the psychic said, "Well, Tony, you're going to have a boy, and that boy is going to be famous." So I grew up knowing that I was going to be famous.
All right.
So I didn't know how, I didn't know where.
But you had to figure out a way to do that.
I had to figure out a way to do it. And so I knew early on. And all the clues were there. I love colors and art and music, and I love all of the artistic things. And so I went about to figuring out how to do that. But 7 was a very interesting time because, life goes in 7s, 14, 21, 28, which was a big
one. That's always a big birthday.
Yeah,
28
Saturn
to 30.
returns. Yeah.
Saturn returns. That'll get you.
It'll get you. So 7 was a big one because my parents finally got their divorce. They were at war.
Here too.
Yeah.
That was the.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
But I knew that I needed to figure out a way to do my thing and get famous and to make music and be creative, you know.
Yeah.
And I also knew that it wasn't going to be easy for me because, again, Emperor's not wearing any clothes, and that I had to find my tribe. Thankfully, a few years later, probably 71 or 72, on PBS, they were showing the Monty Python Flying Circus. And I thought, oh, there they are. That is my tribe, my people. They exist. So so then I set out to go and find my tribe. Because you can't
Right.
do it alone. You can try, and there's a lot of alone time, but you have to find your tribe. And most of the kids in the East Village who I came up with, they couldn't make that transition above 14th Street, but a few did, and I am still working with them today.
That's so great.
Randy and Fenton from World of Wonder, I knew from the Pyramid Club, and I still work with them today.
So what year did you come to New York?
I came the first time in '84, and I was here for half a year, couch surfing, sleeping on the pier, sleeping in Central Park during the day, and then the winter struck, and I went back to Atlanta. After San Diego, I moved to Atlanta, Georgia in '76 with my sister and went to high school and all that stuff. And then started my career in Atlanta and then moved up here in '84. But then the city, New York, spit me back out. I went back to Atlanta, made some money, and then I came back here in '87. But I worked up here in between that, doing clubs and working at Danceteria and doing my show at Pyramid and all that stuff.
So what was the first job you had that you said, this is me, this is a fit, this is something that's got meat to it?
Well, in Atlanta, Georgia, there was a television show called The American Music Show, and it was a public access television show. And public access, you guys look that up, you'll figure it out. It allowed public to have television on cable systems that were, So I wrote into that show because I realized they were my tribe. I wrote in and sent my phone number, and they called me, Dick Richards called me, and he said, come on and be on our show.
Really?
So I put together a dance routine to Junior Walker and All-Stars Shotgun.
Oh my God. I wonder how many people know that song. I can probably sing it and dance to it.
So I did that.
That is so great.
And from then on, I knew, okay, I found my spot.
Wow. So how many people would do that, though? How many people just say, I'm going to give it a chance?
Yeah.
I mean, that's very brave, right?
It is brave, but you know, whatever the percentage of people who would do that is far greater than the ones who would keep doing it for 37 years. You know, because there have been so many times when I thought, okay, you know, I think that's a wrap. That is a wrap. Mm-hmm. And you know, it's one thing to say, I'm going to go and do this. It's another to stick with it and to go inside. Because actually in 1999, I stepped away from the canvas. I worked, but I wasn't ambitious about it. My focus was on my nieces and nephews and getting back to my own humanity.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
And for about 4 years, I was mostly in LA. I would have barbecues and charade parties and play games and backyard parties, and I got back to humanity. It was weird. It was a weird time because my intuition said, you know, it's very hostile out there, mm-hmm. So I'm going to step away. And then I came back in 2004. I came back to the business full on, but I wouldn't be here today had I not
taken that break.
Done that.
Yeah. So what was your Saturn return at 28?
Saturn returns. I had moved back to New York, and then couldn't get any traction in New York like I had in '84, and then after a series of weird, horrible, humiliating events, I wound up in LA. And I was sleeping on my younger sister's couch, sleeping on my baby sister's couch, not a dime to my name, literally, mm-hmm. No car. She would go to work, and I would sleep during the day. And then before she came home, I would leave her apartment and walk around Los Angeles. And in the late hours, and like come back to her house at like 3 o'clock in the morning.
Oh my God.
Walking around. It was pretty,
oh my God.
It was pretty awful. It was like my 40 days and 40 nights.
And then what snapped you out of that?
Well, this is why I get emotional here because I turned 28 in November of 1988. And it was the holiday, so I went down to my mother's in San Diego to spend time with her and just not think about what I needed to do. And then by January, one of my tribe members, Larry T., who I knew from Atlanta, who I moved up here to New York with, he called me and said, Ru, what are you doing? Get your tuchus back here to New York. I'm going to pay for your plane. I'm going to pay for your plane ticket, and you're going to get back up on that go-go box, and you're going to make that money back, and you're going to pay me, and you're going to get back to what you're here to do.
Right.
It was like in The Wizard of Oz when Dorothy lays down in the poppy field, and I think the Tin Man says, "Wake up," because he's not affected by the poppies heroin.
Right.
Wake up! Come on, we're going to Oz. Come on, wake up. Larry T. calls me up and says, get back here. And I had a moment of clarity, and I got back to New York.
Wow.
And I got back to New York, and I said, you know what? I'm not playing around anymore. I'm going to give them what they want. I shaved my legs. Just because before that, we were doing drag. We were doing gender F-word drag,
right.
which was like,
you know.
And I knew that I had power, my Superman. You know what? I'm going to give them full-on Superman.
Right.
I shake my legs, and I did what I call my Soul Train dancer drag.
Right.
Streetwalker drag,
Right.
which is sexier and
Right.
it's more glamorous. I came back. That was January. By September of '89, I was crowned the Queen of Manhattan.
I remember that period. I remember you. I remember that period. I remember how bold and brave you were. I mean, and it was so much more than drag. It was so much more. And I wonder if you were, I'm sure subliminally, the guides took you there to do your job of what you're supposed to do.
Absolutely.
Because to take that step was one thing, but then oh my God, the message and the story, all of it was just so big and bold. And, you know, the time was right. It was really about timing, which is why you had to go through all of that stuff. But it still was a provocative time, which is going back to my other question, because I wanted to get to that period when you really just, I mean, you were loud and clear, and everybody had to pay attention to a message that they really hadn't heard before in a public way. And you made it so easy for people to understand. It was really crazy.
Yeah.
And it's such a delicate balance, because if you do it wrong, it just hurts everything.
Yeah.
But if you always keep everything you do open and friendly and inviting, you invite everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody can come and dance with you. Everybody can come and experience your story or the story you want to tell. And I remember that period. If I think of you, I think of, whoa, this is powerful stuff. And it's very funny that it happened all around your Saturn return. My Saturn return was, I'd been married for 10 years. I was married at 19, and my husband sort of ran everything, and he was living a life that was very difficult for me, and my self-esteem certainly was under siege in this relationship. And I had to leave our business together, and I had to leave everything, and I had $98. And nobody knew me. Nobody knew that I was sewing in the back and doing all this stuff. And I didn't know what I was going to do. And I was so shy, I could hardly speak. I was so shy. And I had a bed. That's all I had. I didn't have curtains, I didn't have furniture, I had nothing but my $98 in a bed. And my brother called me from Las Vegas. He was not living a good life, lost all his money playing whatever games you play in Las Vegas, and wanted bus money to come home. And I thought, what can could life get any better than this? I mean, okay, the lesson is here. And I remember just keeping the lights off so people wouldn't watch me get undressed, and just crying and thinking, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I have my soul. I have my soul, and that is the only thing that can be important right now. And those experiences, for the two of us, clearly we've had other Saturn returns, but we were more mature to deal with them a little bit more maturely. But had you not sort of gone down to whatever and have this angel friend say, enough of your shit now, get over here and do what you're supposed to do. And for me, to just have it be so horrible that I couldn't stay another day. I couldn't have any more humiliation or embarrassment. I mean, and those are the two words that really drive you, right? I mean, if you think about the humiliation human beings suffer, and humiliation and lack of respect, I think, are the most horrible things you can do to a human being. And that's why a lot of people don't think they deserve more, because they've been humiliated and had disrespect for so long. But it has to be the thing that drives you to save yourself, or to listen when somebody wants to help and save you.
When you are sick and tired of being sick and tired, and you say, you know what, like the lotus out of the mud, I'm going to emerge. But in the case of what happened to me is I was clear enough to hear the universe's stage direction. And that is what you find in meditation. It's what you find in the silence. And when you've been humiliated enough to where even your ego can't even muster up a fight. That is the sweet spot. When the universe, when your angels can intervene, when you are able at that point to say, please help me. Then your angels can swoop in, and divinity can happen.
And asking for help in the spirit, but also asking people for help. I mean, this person helped you. I learned for the first time to actually ask for help. I didn't think anybody would help me. I didn't think anybody thought I was worthy of even talking to. That's how my self-esteem had been sort of squashed. And to think, oh my God, somebody wants to help me, that's just unbelievable. So asking for help on all levels is really incredible. You talk about meditation a couple of times. I don't know if you saw the signs here, but last New Year's, before New Year's, we always do a thing where everybody, on Thanksgiving, we have a big feast, which we're going to have this week, and everybody talks about what they give thanks for, and then before New Year's, we talk about our New Year's resolution. So the majority of the staff talked about wanting to meditate, continuing to meditate, or somehow changing that sort of experience that they have now with meditation. So we have somebody come in every day at 12:30, and we do a meditation, and it's really, not everybody accepts it, so I just say, I'll pay you for a half hour to do nothing. If you want to snore on a mat, it's fine. I don't care. If you want to just sit and do nothing, it's fine. But do something to disconnect for a half hour. That's it. And I know in Muslim countries they have a call to prayer. I wish we had a call to meditation.
I do too.
I mean, to me, it would just be so good for us to stop, do nothing, and then come back. It changes perspective for everything.
It absolutely does. And again, I mean, I don't know how you can tell people this. Dorothy says, well, why didn't you tell me? All I had to do was click my heels. Because you wouldn't have believed me. You had to learn it for yourself. You know, I love the sort of mandatory meditation in the Muslim countries, but, people have to find that thing for themselves. And going back to, me as a kid, understanding the emperor's not wearing any clothes, I knew that there is a consciousness beyond what my brain can decipher, and that I need to align myself with it, and that I am heir to that consciousness if I allow myself to do that. And throughout the career, as crowned Queen of Manhattan, and then after that, I thought, okay, I need to go mainstream. And I thought, well, okay, I guess that leaves drag out. I have to follow my initial inspiration, which was, to be the next David Bowie. And I would go and do dates, clubs, performances in my sort of androgyny thing. And people would say, that's great, Ru, but when are you going to do, your drag thing again? And it hit me then. I thought, who says I couldn't be hit the top in drag? Who says that? I realized I'm the one who said that. That initiated from here. It wasn't out there. So when I let that go, that thought, it was like ancient doors went open for me in my career. And I realized it was here. I held the key. All I had to do was kick my heels 3 times. So that was a major turning point for me. And it was major because I needed to realize how much of my destiny, my life, was a construct of the thoughts that I was thinking. And that by letting go of old thoughts and making a space, and this is what meditation does for me, it clears a space in my consciousness for the divine, for new, updated ideas to come and live inside of me. And that practice, and so many, so much evidence that helped me to continue this way of doing an inventory, of saying, oh, that doesn't work. Oh, that doesn't. Oh, bring more of that in. Let's bring some more. That process is why I'm sitting here today.
And all the different areas of creativity that you go into are so fantastic, and you do it in a different frame, in a different sort of visual impression that you feel fits for that story.
It's all drag to me.
And it really is. So much of this, most women don't really get. That it's the story you tell, and the more authentic the story, the more powerful your beauty is, right? So and I do everything, I promise you, this is part of my purpose, to help women tell their authentic story, and use clothes or whatever it is to, it could be what they're doing, to help identify this sort of drag that says, here I am, or putting clothes on that are fun and you'll have fun, how important all of that is viscerally to presenting who you are and your self-esteem and the power you have as a human being. Women, because we're judged by the way we look so much, and objectification, which is a topic I want to talk about too, women being objectified for most of their lives up until recently. I could tell a story a month of really horrible experiences that we just keep quiet. I got to get the job done here. If he wants to hit me on my butt, fuck it. I got to, I'm just going to like move it aside. And so there's all of that we have to shed away and then say, where's my authentic self? It's time for my authentic self to come out. Now you have done that. You've done that, and it's almost by looking at every picture of you almost for every year and all your different drag. And so, but in each of it, there's an authentic self that you're telling the story for. So for women, what advice would you give women about how they present themselves and the authentic self?
Well, the first step is identifying what is standing guard, what is keeping you in that same old cycle. And you have to ask, did I buy into plan A or plan B? Do I have the support in my life to set out on make my own plan, my own meal plan, my own life plan? So first is identifying that, that sort of, that what's standing guard to keep you from that. And I realized, I started using a computer. I was late to the game. I started using a computer, I think, in 2000. And I had a computer tutor who would come over once a week and teach me how to do this thing. There would always be some bug in it. And he'd come back, because first he said, Ru, what I want you to do, when I come back next week, I want to see that you have effed this machine up. So when I come back, I will have fixed it. Yeah. So there would be something, I'd want to put this thing in the trash that was making it not work, but it wouldn't, that wouldn't fix it, putting it in the trash. He'd come back and say, oh, that wasn't the problem, this thing here. It was actually, the problem was over here. And this thing was a result of this problem. So I love that analogy, because a lot of times on the surface we think, oh, my skin is dry, my skin is dry. You say, well, that's just the surface of what's happening. There's something deeper happening. And what I believe women in our culture have to address is, what of the fairy tale, the princess fairy tale, are you still believing? Because part of that princess fairy tale has to do with some white knight coming along to rescue you. Well, what all the ascended masters will teach us is that that white knight you're looking for is you.
Yeah. It's
you.
Yeah.
And if you give that power to some outside force, it can never be that for you.
Yeah.
So identifying where that clink in the machine, the mechanism, where it exists, and being willing to take it out and really put it in the trash. Because like the Moses story, people revert back to what they're familiar with, and that's why yes, I found a thing for me, but it's not like I found it and I was done. It's a daily, it's every day.
Yeah.
It's like my tail grows back every day.
Yeah.
Every meditation every day shaves it away.
Yeah.
So it's not easy. But plan A or plan B, that's not easy either, because it's like a garment that wasn't made for you.
Yeah.
You have to make your own garments.
So before all of this hashtag in the women's camp, I had a campaign going to stop objectification, just to bring awareness, so that, and I believe when people are aware of something, then they can do something about it. And I don't really believe people are malicious, but they learn bad habits and they don't understand how it feels themselves. And so by telling stories, it can really impact a man who has a daughter, and he might have been objectifying somebody in the workplace, and his daughter could experience. So very simple, tell stories. But I know that there are many gay men who have had horrific objectification experiences, not any less or more than women, but in the same kind of world. And in your world, you must have also had and seen this sort of acceptance that it's okay to speak to people in a certain way. And it takes us an individual kind of strength to deal with it. Like I said, sometimes I would say, I'm not even going to deal with it. And other times, my body language was very clear about where are you going with this. And being able to sort of, especially if the power that is this objectifier, how to say, I'm going to walk away from this because it's not good for me. But in your world, I can imagine there's another layer that you have experienced yourself or witnessed that has been very painful. Does it still exist, do you think?
Absolutely, and you hit on something a minute ago. There's something called Hanlon's razor. Hanlon's razor. And it's a theory, which is, and I'm going to paraphrase, I don't know specifics. It says, don't attribute malice to that which can otherwise be summed up as ignorance, you know? And throughout my life, from the kids who would look at me after I come from the beach,
Right.
to every step of the way, people would feel threatened by what I was doing, by me making my own plan. So I had to make the decision to, am I going to allow my ego to co-opt the situation, or am I going to just let it flow past me and say, that has nothing to do with me, that's all you, thank you, but I'm going to keep moving. Usually I say thank you, I'm going to keep moving and not let what people say to me, you know, what other people think of me is none of my business. Except in a situation, and a lot of people are in this situation where you're paying taxes and the government is doing it to you, where it's like, oh, no, not with all, I pay half the money I make goes to taxes.
Right.
Or in a situation where someone you work for someone and they're discriminating, you know, they're usually, yeah. So my point with all of this is that, you know, people will put their stuff on you. And this is the bigger point here. There are many different characters that live inside of your consciousness. And, you know, conflicting voices can live in the exact same spot. There's a part of me that may have a daughter who I love as my precious jewel, but I also say to the lady walking down the street, hey, toots, you know. Both of those characters live inside of us, and we have to be able to decipher who's saying what. As I did with the kids in my neighborhood, I said, I know that wasn't personal. I know that they're fearful. It's not personal. Throughout my life, I've had to figure out what belongs to me and what belongs to them. Usually, it belongs to them, and I cannot be offended. The only things that offend me in this life are deliberate cruelty and extreme poverty. Everything else is, you know, life is a damn laugh riot, you know? So I learned early to also, don't take life too seriously.
Yeah.
Don't take it too seriously, or else you'll get caught up in it. Now, some things are very serious for some people, and some people are put in harm's way because of other people's maliciousness. We have been very, very lucky. We've been very fortunate in our lives. As Americans, every time I go overseas, I think, oh my goodness, we're so fortunate. So fortunate. Clean drinking water, clean air. There aren't any bombs falling on us right now. But the bigger point here is, again, being conscious. This is Hanlon's razor, Hanlon razor. I don't know why it's called that. Is in that moment to be able to say, does that comment belong to me? What other people think of me is none of my business. Does that comment belong to me? Am I going to take that in, or am I going to let that pass by me? First of all, do not put your hands on me.
Right.
Don't put your hands on me. That's a whole nother thing.
Right.
You know? But then what people say, you know, does it inhibit my movement as an American who pays taxes? Does it inhibit my movement in this company where I've earned my spot and you're going to do something because of, you know, those are other things. But what people say, their ignorance, you know, do I acknowledge that humans have all these different voices in them? And, you know, I used to tell this story years ago about, you know, when you have a child, and say this little Susie happens to pass mommy and daddy's bedroom one night when mommy is dressed in all leather with a strap on, and daddy, and she's beating the hell, you know, that child is saying, why is daddy screaming? What is happening? What little Susie doesn't understand is that there are other aspects of human experience that she doesn't understand yet, and that they're play acting. They're play acting for pleasure, for excitement, for interest. So a lot of times, little Susie has to be, her consciousness has to be upgraded to understand that I know it looks like hurt, but it's different. And not to belittle what people experience in the workplace. Some people are horrific, to women especially. I grew up in a household with all women. I know firsthand how hurtful and harming, and how it puts a foot, this unseen, invisible foot, so you can't move forward. And also as a person of color, of person of whatever I am, people saying all kinds of things, even my people, even people from the East Village. I remember when I quit doing clubs, a good friend of mine, I started doing aerobics and getting my body together. I stopped drinking, doing drugs, all this stuff. And my friend, arms crossed, just like in San Diego, said, "You must think you're Jane Fonda or somebody." How funny Jane Fonda keeps coming up.
I was going to say.
Yeah, she's a hero, but she gave me my star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
Get out.
She's the one. She passed the baton to me.
Stop.
She gave, and in '68, I remember it was March of '68 or '67. '68. Jane Fonda showed up on the cover of Life magazine at my house. And I remember taking the magazine in the garage and trying to emulate the pose on the cover.
I love it.
I remember it so
Isn't
clearly.
that fascinating?
And 50 years to the month, in March of 2018, she gave me my star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
That is crazy. That is really something.
Talk about planting seeds. That's the thing about
Yeah.
the spirit world, is there's no time or space to
Right.
it. So you don't know when that tree is going to grow up and bear fruit. But you put it out there. That's why, listen, when people say negative things to you, there's a country song that says, I think it's by, I'll remember the name, but he says, she's more to be pitied than scorned. So when those people who say negative things to you, what you realize is that is just a fraction of the negativity that they have going on in their own heads. So if you are if you say nasty things to people, those nasty voices are actually saying it to them. So if you are a liar, you naturally assume everyone is lying to you. If you are a nasty, mean person, you naturally assume everyone's being mean. So when I think about that idiot who lives across the street from here, I think all the nasty things that he says outward, they're being said inward by him, to him. So he's more to be pitied than scorned. He's, so anyway, I get worked up here, I'm sorry.
No, but one of the things that I remember about you, and either interviews that I'd seen through the years of you on TV, and I mean, you've done the circuit 100 times of all of those shows, and each time, no matter what the question, no matter how objectifying maybe, or condescending, or whatever those, words are that can be experienced, you always answered with love in some way that sort of diffused wherever they were going, and they would just like fall in it. And I've always been impressed that your response to anything like that was a hug, no matter how, ridiculous or stupid or lack of humor that might have been. And that takes ego, it takes a sense of self, but it's such a great example for how to deal with people now, especially with the mean spirit on all social media, and sort of this ability for people to be so cruel now, and that the way you diffuse it maybe is with a hug and with love.
And love, all of those things, and perspective, because when you are able to see the landscape. You're able to go, oh, I see what that is. It wasn't personal. And if I responded as if it were personal, I would only get more of the same.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I have to hit the Google Earth button and
Right.
go, that had nothing
Yeah.
to do with me. That had everything to do
Yeah.
with them.
A friend of mine who's a mentor to me gave me some really great advice, and she said, when you're in very difficult situations, step away and look at it as if you're watching a movie.
Yes.
Take your emotion out of it so you don't get sick, so you don't sort of get taken down by it, and observe it while it's happening. And it's the same way your Google Map thing is like, step away and the perspective is easier to understand.
Yeah.
Well, I'm thanking you and hating to end this because I just love speaking with you. I knew that I would really enjoy sharing this with people who are listening to my podcast, because you're such an incredible person, and I know you're conjuring up all kinds of things ahead. So we'll put a little bio of what you're doing and on with the podcast. But I really thank you so much for everything you've done for our culture, for everyone. And the more you stay involved in bringing awareness to everybody, the better we'll be. So I hope you keep at it, because we need you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Norma. Thank you.
Such a pleasure.
It's my pleasure.